The music stopped, but we didn't. Her fingers trembled against mine as tears streaked down her face. "Please don't leave me," she whispered, the woman who had once seemed invincible now vulnerable in my arms. That moment changed everything, and if you stay until the end, you'll discover how a simple dance transformed both our lives forever. If this story resonates with you, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support helps bring more stories like this one to life. I never expected to see my boss cry. Katherine Reynolds was a legend at Meridian Publishing, brilliant, demanding, and utterly composed. The kind of woman who wore crisp blazers like armor and made decisions that could reshape careers with a single nod. The kind of boss who inspired equal parts admiration and terror. I was just another editor, albeit one with a reputation for handling difficult authors and impossible deadlines. That's probably why Katherine had hired me 3 years ago, plucking me from a smaller publishing house with the promise of bigger projects and better pay. What she hadn't mentioned was the soul-crushing workload and her exacting standards that left even the most confident employees questioning their abilities. "Daniel, the winter's manuscript needs another pass," she'd say, dropping a heavily marked manuscript on my desk at 5 p.m. on a Friday. I need it by Monday morning. And I'd do it. Every time. While others complained or eventually quit, I stayed. Not because I enjoyed the pressure, but because beneath Katherine's impossible demands, I recognized something familiar, a desperate need to prove oneself. I understood that language fluently. The company holiday party wasn't mandatory, but it might as well have been. Katherine noticed absences, and those who skipped often found themselves with the least desirable assignments in January. So there I was, nursing a glass of mediocre wine in a rented event space, making small talk with colleagues I barely knew beyond their email signatures. Katherine arrived an hour late, which was typical. What wasn't typical was her appearance. Her usually perfect hair seemed hastily styled, and though her dress was elegant, something about her seemed off balance. She moved through the room with her customary authority, but I noticed how she kept checking her phone, her expression tightening each time. "Everything okay?" I asked when she stopped near me to grab a drink. She looked startled, as if she'd forgotten there were actual people at this party. "Fine, Daniel. Just fine." Her voice had that clipped quality that usually preceded someone getting fired. I should have nodded and moved away. That would have been the sensible response. Instead, I said, "You know, you're a terrible liar for someone who reads fiction for a living." Her eyes widened, and for a moment I was certain I'd just ended my career. Then something unexpected happened. She laughed. A short, surprised sound that seemed to catch her off guard as much as it did me. "I suppose I am," she admitted, taking a long sip of her champagne. "The board meeting didn't go well. There are changes coming." The way she said changes sent a chill through me. In publishing, that usually meant one thing: layoffs. "How bad?" I asked. Katherine glanced around the room, at all the employees laughing and drinking, oblivious to what might be coming. "Bad enough that this might be our last holiday party." Before I could respond, her phone buzzed again. She checked it, and this time I saw her hand tremble slightly. "Excuse me," she murmured, moving quickly toward the exit. I don't know why I followed her. Curiosity, concern, or perhaps just the strange feeling that something significant was happening. I found her in the hallway outside, staring at her phone with an expression I'd never seen before: fear. "Katherine?" She looked up, quickly composing her features, but not before I caught the glimmer of tears in her eyes. "Go back to the party, Daniel." "What's happening?" "Maybe I can help. Unless you can convince Westridge Media not to acquire us and gut our entire editorial department, I doubt it." The words spilled out before she could stop them. My stomach dropped. Westridge was notorious for buying publishing houses and stripping them down to the most profitable divisions. They had no respect for the craft, only the bottom line. "When?" I asked. The announcement goes out Monday morning. I've spent the last month fighting it, but the final vote just came in. She held up her phone. I lost. The weight of what she was saying hit me. Monday morning, most of us would be out of jobs. Including, possibly, Katherine herself. Does anyone else know? She shook her head. Just senior management. I wanted to tell everyone tonight, but they insisted we wait until after the weekend. Her laugh was bitter. Heaven forbid we ruin everyone's holiday spirit before they're unemployed. The music from the party drifted into the hallway, a cheerful melody that felt cruelly inappropriate. Katherine straightened her shoulders, visibly pulling herself back together. I should go back in. Make an appearance. Pretend everything's fine. She smoothed her dress with hands that weren't quite steady. Or, I said, surprising myself, you could take a moment. Just breathe. She looked at me as if I'd suggested she fly to the moon. I don't have that luxury. Everyone deserves 5 minutes, Katherine. Even you. Something in her expression shifted, a hairline crack in her perfect facade. For a moment, I saw past the intimidating boss to the woman beneath, someone carrying an impossible burden alone. The music's nice, I said, nodding toward the party. Better out here without all the chatter. It was a slow song now, something classic and gentle. Without overthinking it, I held out my hand. Dance with me? Her eyes widened. What? Dance with me. 5 minutes where you don't have to be Katherine Reynolds, publishing executive. Just be a person at a party, having one nice moment before whatever comes next. I expected her to refuse, perhaps even to reprimand me for the inappropriate suggestion. Instead, after a long moment, she placed her hand in mine. It was awkward at first. Katherine held herself stiffly, keeping a professional distance between us as we swayed to the music filtering through the door. But as the song continued, something changed. Her shoulders gradually relaxed, and she moved a step closer. I've failed them all, she said quietly, her eyes fixed on some point beyond my shoulder. 37 people who trusted me to lead this company, and on Monday they'll learn I couldn't protect their jobs. You fought, I reminded her. That counts for something. Does it? When the result is the same? Her voice caught. I've given everything to Meridian. 15 years of my life. Missed my sister's wedding for a deadline. Worked through pneumonia last year. And for what? The bitterness in her voice was raw, but underneath it I heard something else, grief. Katherine wasn't just losing a job, she was losing a part of her identity. For the books, I said simply. For the stories we helped bring into the world. That matters, Katherine. Whatever happens Monday, that work still matters. Her eyes met mine, searching for something, mockery, perhaps, or empty platitudes. Finding neither, she sighed. I wanted to build something lasting, she admitted. Something meaningful. You did. Even if Westridge tears it all down tomorrow, you built something that changed lives. Mine included. She raised an eyebrow. I thought you hated working for me. I laughed softly. I've complained plenty, I won't deny it. But I'm a better editor because of you. A better professional. That doesn't disappear when the company does. The music changed to something slower, more intimate. Katherine didn't pull away as I might have expected. Instead, she moved closer, until I could feel her trembling. I don't know who I am without this job, she whispered, the confession barely audible. You're still you, I told her. The job was never what made you exceptional, Katherine. A tear slipped down her cheek, and she quickly brushed it away. I'm sorry. I don't usually. It's okay, I interrupted gently. No one else is here. Just us. Something broke in her then. Her composure crumbled, and she pressed her forehead against my shoulder, her body shaking with silent sobs. I held her, continuing our slow dance while she cried for everything she was about to lose. When the music stopped, she didn't immediately pull away. Her fingers tightened on mine, and in a voice so vulnerable I barely recognized it, she said, "Please don't leave me." In that moment, I understood she wasn't just talking about the dance, or even about that night. She was facing a future where everything familiar was being stripped away, where she would have to rebuild from nothing. "I won't," I promised, though I had no idea how I could keep that word in the face of corporate decisions far beyond my control. She stepped back finally, wiping her eyes and taking a deep breath. "Thank you, Daniel. For the dance. And for..." She gestured vaguely, unable to articulate the rest. "Anytime," I said, meaning it. We returned to the party separately. Katherine resumed her role as the confident leader, moving through the room with practiced ease. No one would have guessed she'd been crying minutes before. I watched her from across the room, seeing her in a completely new light. Monday morning arrived with the expected announcement. Westridge Media was acquiring Meridian Publishing, and most positions would be evaluated for redundancy, corporate speak for mass layoffs. The office was chaos, people crying, arguing, some immediately packing their belongings. I sat at my desk, updating my resume and wondering where I would go next. Smaller publishers wouldn't offer the same salary, and the big houses weren't hiring. Maybe it was time to consider a career change. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, * my office. Now. Kr*. Katherine's office was oddly calm amid the storm. She sat behind her desk, impeccably dressed as always, though I noticed the shadows under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite conceal. "Close the door," she said when I entered. I did, then stood awkwardly, unsure why she'd summoned me. Was this a formal goodbye? A letter of recommendation? "I'm leaving Meridian," she said without preamble. "I think we all are," I replied, attempting humor. She didn't smile. "I mean, I'm not staying with Westridge. I've declined their offer to head their streamlined fiction department." That surprised me. In publishing, even a diminished role at a major house was better than unemployment. "What will you do?" I asked. Katherine leaned forward, a strange intensity in her eyes. "I'm starting over. A new publishing house, focused on the kind of literary fiction that Westridge considers unprofitable. Small, independent, dedicated to quality over quantity." My heart beat faster. "That's ambitious." "It's insane," she corrected. "Especially in this market. I'll be competing against conglomerates with unlimited resources. The odds of success are minimal. But you're doing it anyway." For the first time that day, she smiled. "I am. Because you were right, the books matter. The stories matter." She paused. "I need a senior editor. Someone who can handle difficult authors and impossible deadlines." The implication hung in the air between us. "Are you offering me a job?" I asked, hardly daring to believe it. "I'm offering you a partnership," she clarified. "Lower salary initially, but equity in the company. I need someone I can trust, Daniel. Someone who won't leave when things get hard." I remembered her words from the party. "Please don't leave me." This was more than a job offer, it was a leap of faith. "When do we start?" I asked. The relief in her eyes was answer enough. The next 6 months were the hardest of my professional life. Katherine and I worked out of her apartment, contacting authors we respected, negotiating with printers, building a business plan from scratch. We argued constantly, her perfectionism clashing with my pragmatism, but beneath the disagreements was a growing respect. Our first book launch was in a small independent bookstore. Only 20 people attended, but when I saw Katherine holding the finished novel, something we had created together from nothing, I knew we'd made the right choice. "We did it," I said, handing her a glass of cheap champagne. "The first of many," she replied, her eyes bright with a passion I'd never seen during her Meridian days. As the tiny crowd mingled around us, Katherine leaned closer. "Dance with me later?" she asked, a vulnerability in her voice that few people ever got to hear. "Always," I promised. 1 year after Westridge gutted Meridian Publishing, our small press, Phoenix Literary, published its 10th book. 3 had become modest bestsellers. We'd moved into a real office and hired 4 former Meridian employees. We weren't rich, but we were sustainable, growing steadily on our own terms. Katherine changed too. The ruthless perfectionist was still there, but tempered now with something warmer. She learned to celebrate small victories, to laugh at setbacks, to trust others with her vision. Most importantly, she learned that her value wasn't measured by corporate success. As for me, I found purpose in building something meaningful alongside someone I'd come to deeply admire. Our relationship evolved into something that defied simple categorization, more than colleagues, different from friends, partners in the truest sense. On the anniversary of that holiday party, we held our own celebration for our small team. As music played and our employees chatted happily, Katherine pulled me aside. "Remember when I asked you not to leave me?" she said quietly. I nodded. "How could I forget?" "Thank you for keeping that promise," she said, her eyes holding mine. "Not just for staying, but for showing me how to start over. How to be more than my job." "Thank you for being brave enough to try," I replied. She smiled, that rare full smile that transformed her face. "Dance with me?" I took her hand, and as we moved together, I realized some endings are really beginnings in disguise. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find what truly matters. And sometimes, a simple dance can change the course of your entire life. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support means everything and helps bring more stories like this one to life. Remember, the most beautiful transformations often begin in our darkest moments. Thank you for watching until the end.